You finally got it. The thing you wanted for months, maybe the job, the phone, the person, the win. For one bright moment you felt it, and then faster than you expected, the feeling faded. But the reason that happiness slipped away is much stranger than disappointment. Because you were never actually built to be happy, not for long, not in the way you imagine. The quiet ache of wanting more, the way satisfaction always seems to dissolve, that is not a flaw in you, it is the design. Your mind was shaped to chase, not to arrive. Let me explain. Think back to the last big thing you wanted, really wanted. You imagined how good it would feel to finally have it, and maybe you got there. And maybe, for a day or a week, it was wonderful. But then the new normal set in. The job became just your job. The phone became just your phone. The thing that was going to change everything quietly became the background of your life. Why does that keep happening? For decades, scientists have studied exactly this pattern and they gave it a name. They call it the hedonic treadmill. The idea is simple and a little cruel. No matter what happens to you, good or bad, your sense of happiness tends to drift back toward a personal baseline. You move forward, but the ground moves with you. You run and you stay in the same place. In the 1970s, two psychologists named Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell first described this effect, and a few years later, Brickman led one of the most famous studies in the history of happiness research. His team interviewed two very different groups of people. The first group had recently won large sums of money in the lottery. The second group had recently become paralyzed in serious accidents. You can probably guess what most people assume. The lottery winners must be living in joy. The accident survivors must be living in despair. But that is not what the data showed. Within a surprisingly short time, the lottery winners were not much happier than ordinary people. The thrill had worn off. And stranger still, the people who had been paralyzed were not nearly as unhappy as everyone expected. They had begun, slowly, to adapt, to find meaning, to return toward their own baseline. Both groups were walking on the same hidden treadmill. So, if winning the lottery barely moves the needle, what hope does a new phone have? Here is where it gets deeper. This is not just a quirk of modern life. It is not because you are spoiled, or ungrateful, or doing happiness wrong. This pattern was written into you long before money or lotteries existed. It was written on the savanna. Imagine one of your distant ancestors. She finds food, a good meal, a rare burst of calories. Her brain floods her with reward, with that warm rush of satisfaction. And that feeling is useful. It teaches her to do it again. But now imagine that the feeling never faded. Imagine she ate that meal and felt permanently, blissfully content. Forever satisfied. What would she do next? Nothing. She would sit there, glowing with happiness and slowly starving because she had no reason to get up and find the next meal. Lasting satisfaction would have been a death sentence. So evolution did something clever and a little ruthless. It made the reward temporary. The good feeling comes and then it must go so that the wanting can return, because the wanting is what keeps you alive. Do you see it now? Your happiness was designed to expire. The evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nesse has spent his career studying this idea. His argument is unsettling. He suggests that our capacity for lasting contentment was deliberately limited by natural selection, because our ancestors who were easily and permanently satisfied were outcompeted by those who always wanted a little more. More food, more safety, more status. The restless ones survived. The deeply content ones did not pass on as many genes. You are descended from the restless. You carry their hunger. And that hunger has a chemical name that most people misunderstand. You have probably heard of dopamine. People talk about it as the pleasure chemical, the thing that makes you feel good when something nice happens. But that is not quite right. Decades of research, including work by the neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz, showed that dopamine is less about pleasure and more about anticipation. It spikes not when you get the reward, but when you are chasing it, when you predict it, when you are almost there. Think about what that means. The chemical that drives you is strongest in the pursuit, not the arrival. You are wired to love the chase, and the moment you catch the thing, the chemical quiets down, and your eyes start drifting toward the next thing on the horizon. That is why the climb often feels more alive than the summit. There is another trick your mind plays, and a Nobel-winning psychologist named Daniel Kahneman gave it a name. He called it the focusing illusion. His version of it is almost a riddle. Nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you are thinking about it. Sit with that for a second. When you imagine how happy a new car will make you, you picture yourself focused entirely on the car, gleaming, perfect. But you will not spend your life staring at it. You will be stuck in traffic in it, worrying about money in it, barely noticing it. The thing you wanted only feels enormous in the moment you imagine it. Once you own it, your attention moves on and the car shrinks back into the furniture of your life. Your imagination is a salesman. It always oversells the future. This is why people fall again and again into what some researchers call the arrival fallacy. The deep, almost unshakable belief that when you finally arrive, when you hit the goal, the promotion, the milestone, you will step into a lasting happiness. People organize whole decades around that belief, and then they arrive, and there is a strange, quiet emptiness waiting for them. They got everything they planned for, and the feeling still leaked away. Have you ever felt that? The flatness after a win you were sure would change you. That emptiness is not a sign that you chose the wrong goal. It is the focusing illusion collapsing. The future you imagined was never going to feel the way you imagined it, because no future ever holds your attention the way a daydream does. And the cruelest part is how quickly the cycle resets. The moment one summit goes flat, your mind has already sketched the next one on the horizon, glowing with the same false promise. Bigger this time. Surely this one will be the one. That is the treadmill speaking in the most convincing voice you own, your own. So now look at the world you actually live in, a world that seems almost perfectly engineered to exploit this ancient design. Every advertisement promises that the next purchase will finally do it. Every feed shows you someone with a little more. Every notification offers a tiny hit of maybe. You are a creature built to never feel finished, dropped into a culture that profits from your hunger. Is it any wonder you struggle to feel content? But here's the part that matters, the part that turns this from a depressing fact into something useful. Understanding the treadmill does not doom you to it. It frees you from a quiet, lifelong lie. The lie is the belief that happiness is a destination, that somewhere out there is a version of your life with the right job and the right amount of money and the right person, where you will finally arrive and stay happy. That place does not exist, it never did, and chasing it is exactly what keeps you running. The psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky has spent years studying what actually moves human happiness in a lasting way, and her findings point somewhere surprising. The things that adapt fastest, that fade quickest, are circumstances. The new car, the raise, the bigger house. Your brain neutralizes those almost immediately, but the things that resist adaptation tend to be different in kind. Close relationships, acts of kindness, novel experiences, a sense of progress towards something that matters, gratitude practiced on purpose. Why do those last longer? Because you cannot fully get used to them. A deep conversation is never quite the same twice. Helping someone does not become background noise. Wonder, by its nature, refuses to go stale. The treadmill speeds up when you chase things you can own. It slows down when you turn toward things you can only experience. You can test this in your own memory right now. Think of the most expensive thing you bought in the last few years. Then try to recall how it actually felt last Tuesday. For most people, the object has gone silent. Now think of a moment with someone you love, or a place that surprised you, or a time you helped a stranger. Notice how that one still has a pulse. It still gives something back when you return to it. That difference is not an accident. The object adapted away. The experience did not, because there was nothing fixed for your mind to get used to. This is the quiet clue your ancestors left inside you, hidden under all that hunger. The wanting points you toward things to possess. But the lasting part of happiness was always hiding in the things you move through, not the things you hold. So maybe the goal was never to step off the treadmill completely. You cannot. The wanting is part of being human, and a life with no desire at all would be its own kind of emptiness. But you can change what you point that wanting at. You can stop sprinting toward a finish line that keeps moving and start valuing the running itself. You can notice the good feeling while it is here instead of mourning it the moment it leaves. Because here is the truth your ancestors could never have known, even as they handed it down to you. The dissatisfaction you feel is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. It is a sign that something is deeply, anciently right with your design. You are a descendant of the ones who always reached for more. That hunger built civilizations. It also makes contentment slippery. The ache is not your enemy. It is your inheritance. You finally got it, the thing you wanted, and the feeling faded, just like it always does. But now you know why, and maybe that is the one kind of happiness that doesn't run away.